Welcome in the special 50th episode of Hanami Mastery, where we are going to interview the Hanami Core Team members. Today we are visiting Tim and Luca. So guys, would you like to introduce yourself, just in case that Hanami fans do not know who you are, which is unlikely?
I'm a Rubyist. I live in Australia. I've enjoyed contributing to the Ruby open source world for some number of years. And for the last little while, I've found a new home in working with Luca and others to help build the future of Hanami. And I've really been enjoying it.
Cool. Thanks for being here. Luca, and what about you?
Hello, everybody. I'm Luca from Rome, Italy. I'm a Rubyist as well. Not surprised here. I've been working with Ruby and open source for quite significant portion of my career, and then during this journey I met Tim and we decided to join the forces together to deliver Hanami 2 to the community.
But prior to working with Luca, I was working on the dry-rb and rom-rb projects, and what we have with Hanami 2 is the combination of all of those efforts to bring them into a single framework that combines them and makes them easier than ever to use.
Cool, and as you probably know, it's all three of those are my favorite ecosystem in Ruby at the moment. So it's very exciting to me to have a chance to talk to you directly. So thank you for accepting the invite, and Luca for suggesting this format of the special episode. I appreciate that a lot. I will quickly go through the plan for this episode. So I collected few questions from the community of people who would like to ask you something. And there are like more general questions and there are more technical questions that could be sometimes maybe answered even on the tweet, but who cares? We will have some fun, and it will be nice to hear your thoughts on everything that I have prepared and collected. So first step is the community questions. I have also prepared a few for myself if we will have some time. First section is about Hanami. So the question number one comes from Yanko and from Jack M. Both are similar, and they are referring to the problems that see or remember from when we're developing the Hanami ROM or dry applications that could be easily solved in Hanami in using your projects, your libraries, but they could be not easily addressed and solved in Rails projects. So would you like to came into this topic and share with us some examples of problems that do not exist in Hanami or are easily solvable, but Rails developers probably could suffer a little bit?
Yes, of course. So in general, it's the structure. I mean, I felt Rails being a good base for vanilla applications, but rather than that, beyond MVC, I always found myself lost. And one of the intentions why I started Hanami as a project is to go beyond MVC and guide the developers. And so that's why you see more components, more abstractions than Rails. Imagine the validations as objects, and there are more details. That is one example. So a short answer for that is the guidance that I believe that Hanami offers, and the problems that are solved out of the box. I'm on top of my mind is N+1 queries, for instance, that are impossible to get with Hanami and the ROM under the hood by design.
Actually, I did experience the N+1 query in the Hanami application, but you really need to try. You need to try to implement it. And that was because of very specific business problem that we needed to solve. But yes, it's extremely clear where such multiple queries would appear, and yeah, you cannot just do it by accident. And this is really surprising for me, being coming from the Rise ecosystem. Tim, would you like to add something on this?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, starting from n+1 as an idea, I mean, that is solved in Hanami because it encourages a layered architecture. And this is something that you can achieve in any framework, but Hanami makes it the default way to construct your app. And I think that's a really powerful posture, and one of the best things that we can bring to people who are looking to build applications that they feel like they can maintain. And I think from there, that solves problems. But another problem that it solves is I, a hypothetical Rubyist, have never found a way of building apps that just suits my brain. And when I started meeting people like Luca and Peter Solnitzer, my other rom-rb collaborator, I found a range of tools that helped me build things that I suddenly felt clicked. Here is an app that we sort of split up into a lot of finer grained pieces, but that gives me the confidence to go and make changes because I know how they connect. And this is the arrangement that Hanami encourages by default. And the last thing I think that is perhaps a surprising aspect that it might bring to a Rubyist is that the framework itself embodies these design principles in how you use it and in how it's implemented. So you actually learn, in my opinion, good app design practices by working with Hanami, because Hanami views, Hanami actions, these are all things that you can interact with directly, and the way they express their API is something that you can take and do in your own application components as well. And I think that's really powerful because we don't have many examples of frameworks whose design patterns you might want to lift and put straight into your app because they're often quite complicated, or they do things that are for the sake of convenience but compromise their own internal design. With Hanami, I think we've struck a nice line there where the framework itself is educational and it teaches you good app design. And I'm really excited. It's a subtle point, but I think it'll play out over the years as people come to Hanami and give it a go.
That is great. Thank you very much. And I will also add one example. One of my favorite features that I have found when starting with Hanami was the settings, the typed settings, and the possibility, like built-in possibility, and the fact that Hanami even encourages that to define settings and environment variables that are accessible in the system. You don't use environment variables using the env constant, and that is extremely powerful. And for me, it's amazing because it eliminates completely the undefined method for nil because someone forgot to set up the environment variable in staging or production environments, and that is something I like very much as well. So thank you very much for those work. It was super nice to discover all of that. So let's check the next question, and the next two of those come from Eduardo and from the Hugh, and both are related to the next major features, the next features for the minor or major versions of Hanami releases. So one question is about rendering HTML templates, that what will be the default template engine, and is if the Hanami 2 is ready to render HTML template and support views by default. And before I will ask for answer, the next question is also related because it comes from Hugh, and he is asking about if Hanami will continue to be a full stack framework and if this will be a focus, or will you focus mostly on the API side in the future? So would you like to address this question, Tim?
Absolutely. I'll talk about the views, perhaps, HTML templates, and then I'll hand over to Luca for thoughts on the framework's focus. But yes, Hanami 2 is ready to render HTML templates. This is our main focus right now as a development team. The view layer is effectively complete, and we're just working on rounding out the support for front-end assets to go along with it, because we think these two make sense to deliver together. And I think anyone who's played with Hanami 2 so far will find views a good fit alongside everything they've learned so far. They're standalone components, just like actions. You have one class per view. Views can bring in other parts of the app via the deps mix-in. Views have explicitness. They prepare the values that they want to pass to their templates. And those templates for rendering HTML, it's all the usual suspects. ERB will be our default. We prepared a brand new ERB engine to ship with Hanami View 2.0, but we also support Haml and Slim as first-party engines. And an interesting thing about the way we've built Hanami View, and I think this reflects well with how we fit in the broader Ruby ecosystem, we didn't just invent everything from scratch. We actually used a library called Tilt, which is a long-time Ruby gem, which provides an abstraction for rendering templates with a range of different template engines. And so anything that Tilt supports, Hanami View supports. So for instance, I've used Yajl views, Y-A-J-L, for using Hanami View to render API responses. And that's a novel way of using views, but it felt very natural, and it was unlocked because of the way we've adopted long-standing Ruby libraries like Tilt. And I think with the view system, people will find other interesting ways to use them. For instance, because they're standalone objects, they're not just tied to being used inside rendering HTML responses for HTTP requests. You can use them on their own. So I've used Hanami views for part of an email delivery system where the view provides the templates for both the text and HTML versions of an email. And because views are just components in a Hanami app that you can call directly from wherever, you can use them in lots of interesting ways. And I think, yeah, I'm really excited for how people can work with them.
Thanks. Thank you very much. And recently I played with the newest beta version of Hanami 2 with views integration, and I built both applications using Hanami View, and also I experimented with removing Hanami View for replacing it with Flex. And the cool thing about Hanami that I really find refreshing and I cannot over appreciate is that even though you guys create amazing components, you don't force using this. You don't force using Hanami View, even though this will be definitely my favorite approach to building views. And I find like this philosophy, like, yeah, just hitting my heart. So it was extremely easy to completely replace the view layer. And yep, just wanted to say thanks for that. Luca, would you?
You're welcome.
Yeah, as you already started to speak, maybe you would like to continue with the second part of the question related to the long-term, the plans of the full stack support.
Yes, of course. So full stack is the current focus, and it will be the final shape of Hanami. API is just a subset of it. And starting from what you just described, Seb, the ability of removing core components, that was intentional. That was a way to offer the everything framework for Ruby, meaning that the default flavor, the default experience is a full stack web framework. But removing one component at a time, you just have a core of it, the kernel of it, that is a way to organize your code base with a container and the CLI capabilities. You can just have an application that is consuming, I don't know, Kafka streams or Kafka lens, and doing some business logic out of it. So just to summarize, what I'm trying to say is that full stack is the default way that we are thinking about Hanami, we are developing at Hanami, but removing from that, you can get API experience, you can get just Ruby experience in a way that, imagine this as a set of circles. You have the core of it, and we are building around the core things that gives developers the web experience.
Thank you. And after the view layer is released, what would be the next big feature, big focus on your side?
Persistence. That is the 2.2 in our roadmap, meaning that we will integrate again with ROM, providing all the facilities that we provide, meaning code generators, CLI commands, and all the abstractions that we believe are good for persistence in an Hanami app.
The next question actually touches ROM and the persistence layer, but because we already know that it will not be introduced in the 2.1 but 2.2, I have a follow-up question. Like, what is the progress on ROM going in general? Because it's not such like transparent. It's because Hanami is split into dry ROM and Hanami gems and ecosystem. It's for the person from the outside, it's very hard to track the progress, the roadmap and progress. And we cannot just go to the GitHub, check the monorepo, and check the commits, the projects there, and so on. So my question would be like, could you add some light on the current progress on ROM integration, and if we can use ROM in the meanwhile while waiting for the full integration? And the final question would be, if there are applications that are using ROM in Hanami 2, will you provide some kind of like a support to migrate it later to the full-fledged integration, if you will provide the integration layer?
No, we're a small team. Our focus has been on views and assets, and that's where it will remain until we can deliver them. One thing we've learned from the experience of building Hanami 2 is that things take longer than you expect or hope, and it's better to bite off slightly less and deliver it, because it's only really once it's formally released that people feel like they're able to engage with it. So views and assets are our focus right now. The ROM repos, people will find, have probably been a bit quiet, and that's purely because we haven't been putting a lot of attention onto it. We do have a plan for how we'll integrate it, though. It will be, unlike Hanami 1, which sort of owned more of the persistence experience via its own classes and sort of constrained ROM, with Hanami 2, we plan for a much lighter touch, which is to let the complete power of ROM be available to the users and focus more on providing streamlined defaults for how it can work, so that there's very little setup boilerplate. The CLI integrates with it right out of the box. You can put ROM components into your app or into your slices, and they all just work based on wherever you locate them, and so on. So it's not going to be a heavy-handed approach. It'll just be getting ROM nicely integrated. So what I think this means is that anyone who's interested in Hanami 2 and persistence, the way to get started with that is to look at our Getting Started guide, which already provides a somewhat manual ROM setup, and you can just start go play with those two things together. They already fit great together, and you can be confident that whatever you build with Hanami plus ROM now, you won't get burnt when the Hanami 2 official 2.2 persistence release happens, because if anything, it might be a little bit of a mechanical translation where you might need to change a few class names or something, just from what ROM provides to how we choose to offer them inside an integrated Hanami app. But you won't have to redo anything from scratch. So that's the status, and that's the way forward if you're interested in learning about how the two fit together.
Cool, thanks very much. And you mentioned that Hanami 1 actually a little bit restricted ROM, and this is new to me. Would you like, maybe, are you able to provide an example of such feature, or Luca?
So how to put this? At the time of Hanami 1, there was contact with me between me and Peter, which is the author of the main author of ROM. But I was a consumer and he was a provider, so there was no alignment in what I believed should have been the Hanami experience and what ROM was providing at the time. So this mismatch resulted in me hiding some of the ROM power, because I believe ROM is powerful, but it can be intimidating for newcomers. And it was less known. ROM was less known a few years ago. And so I just wanted to give a brainless, frictionless user experience to Hanami users. And that came with a compromise of hiding some of the ROM features that I believe are powerful, such as the relations. Okay, because in my thinking, coming from active record, people will have objects that are business logic, so we call entities, and repositories, I mean the persistence logic, together because of the active record pattern. In Hanami 1, there was already the separation of data persistence versus business logic, and I felt like that was enough cognitive load for the users. Okay, and so I preferred to hide everything else. That is where this thinking starts to crack for advanced users that needs more of the ROM powerful. So lesson learned, Hanami 2.0 will still offer a basic frictionless ROM experience, but they will not try to hide behind a curtain for advanced users what they want to achieve with it.
Tim, would you like to add something on top of this?
Yeah, just to add, I think two things have happened since that era with Hanami 1. Firstly, ROM has come a long way. Now, just as a vanilla ROM user, the easy things are easy and the hard things are possible, which is what's so amazing about it as a framework. And the second thing is that our philosophy for the Hanami framework design has evolved from the lessons we learned in Hanami 1. Now, I wasn't in the team doing that, but I've seen how it was built, and obviously I've worked a lot with Luca on this new iteration. And I want to just underscore how important that is. Our goal with Hanami 2 is that to give you access to the power of all the things we're bringing together, make it easy to get started, but also make it easy for you to drop beneath the surface and do things when you realize your needs have advanced beyond what the framework gives you without having to eject yourself fully from the framework ecosystem. So that's the two things that came together to help inform our ROM integration and persistence layer for Hanami 2.
Okay, thank you very much. And before we get down to the ground and touch again the present stuff, I know that your focus is around views and you barely focus on the persistence, but I'm also interested to hear from you. What are your rough next plans after completing the full-fledged framework? What does it mean to you? Like, would you focus on the maintenance, education? Like, do you have some crazy big features in mind to be added, or maybe just retirement and taking care of kids?
Yeah, finishing it, meaning provide the set of features that we want to provide that we are already covering. But for me, I mean, not for me, but for us, Hanami, after 2.2, we consider Hanami as done, in a sense that we will work on maintenance, we will work on compatibility between the dry ROM and Hanami ecosystem, compatibility with third-party gems, with the Ruby itself. But don't expect any big bang rewrite, don't expect any groundbreaking work, because the focus will be on education, will be on growing the community, will be on adoption, that we are doing a huge investment, technological investment, and we are deliberately focusing on code, ignoring maybe too much what is behind code. But for me, open source is a constant exercise of prioritization, because we are working with a resource it's called time. It is scarce. It's not a resource that is abundant for us. So the next steps will be education, will be getting in touch with people, would be growing the community.
Thanks. Yeah, I can agree with this because I'm from the other side. I decided to help with the community education and supporting the documentation, and even contributing to the guides was so big challenge to me because of how much time is needed to prepare weekly videos. So definitely hear you that spreading the focus would mean probably that we would not see the Hanami 2.0 in the next few years. In the longer term, more people will just jump in and try educate others, which could speed up things around this. So then I have some maybe more problematic questions around the current situation. Hugh also asked about the main concerns you guys have or main struggles that you have around the development of Hanami. And this is pretty general questions, but do you struggle with anything at the moment? Do you experience some very big challenges in the recent, I don't know, like months during the work of Hanami? Like what was your biggest struggle, this resource you have not enough? Yep. Tim, would you like to add something on this?
Sure. I mean, I think it comes down, for me at least, comes down to what Luca just said before, which is we're playing with this resource called time. Time is very scarce. We're people with young families and jobs and all these sorts of things. And at the same time, this big fat vision for what an advanced Ruby framework might look like. And squaring those two things away is hard. Anyone who's followed Hanami and our work will know that it's taken a long time to get where we've got to, and it's still taking some time to get where we're going. So just maintaining that momentum is the biggest challenge. I think, however, that we've been able to show the community that we're serious about delivering on this. I think the community understands that we're a small team. They're behind us in willing to be patient, and the things that we do release, people are excited about. You asked before about what we plan to do once we sort of rounded out the vision. I'll try and get some more sleep, because it's been a bit of a hard slog. But that's it. That's been the hardest part. Like, we know the steps we need to take to get where we want to go. It's just a matter of finding the time to execute on them. And we're doing it. And one of the things I've had to learn personally and learn working with the others in the team is that it's important to not burn ourselves out, because we are part of like the future of Hanami as well as its present. And we need to be patient with each other, because this is open source as well. We're just giving this of ourselves, and that's all we can ask, and just be kind to ourselves as we go.
Mm-hmm. But what if the time is the biggest problem and you're a small team, and this means not directly that a small team with a lot of like workload struggle with time. So would you think about increasing the number of people in the team, helping the community to find out how they can help you with the development, and maybe rise up the next generation of Hanami Core developers?
Yeah, I mean, I see this mostly as a bootstrapping problem. We just have to get over the hump to 2.2 because then the vision is complete and everything from there will be refinements, iteration, small bug fixes. And that's the perfect foundation from which people can begin to contribute more to Hanami if that's their interest. It doesn't stop someone from doing it now. It's just that you sort of have to understand a lot of pieces that are still in flight. And, you know, we have had some people make themselves known to us, and we've had a few good contributors, even as the whole work has been in flux over the last couple of years. But that is understandably a much taller, a much bigger ask, much bigger challenge for potential contributors. So this is the other side of the challenge too. If we stepped back and then decided to like prescriptively write down every step that we need to take with the hope that someone out there might claim a ticket and do it for us, well, how much time might that take? And will that push forward the eventual completion of all these things by another year or something like that? So I think, at least from my perspective, I'll let Luca weigh in a second if he feels like it. We've decided to err on the side of just try to get things done and recognize that, yes, this is a transitional period. It's the last such period that we're going to put the community through, and we appreciate everyone's patience. But once we get out the other side, and we're already seeing what that begins to look like, we've delivered 2.0 and a bunch of gems, we'll be in a much better place for folks to contribute to fix bugs and so on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So the next somewhat related question, maybe because of their focus, but there are companies that do use older versions of Hanami. And I see the migration, because I'm responsible in Ascenda on upgrading Hanami from 1 to 2. And I cannot lie, it's steep. It's definitely a challenging task. And there is a question also from Hugh. What are the plans of the core team to address this problem? Like, is there anything, anybody, any company, like, do you have like a list or a group of companies that use Hanami 2 in production? Maybe companies that who already updated the Hanami applications, that we could reach out in case of problems and like compose this group experience to define the guidelines of the upgrading process. Or
yeah, I asked you to give the hard questions to Tim, but here we are. Thank you, Seb. I'm joking, of course. So here's the thing that I see at the moment is that I consider, this is a personal thing we never discussed with Tim, but let's share this with the group. I consider Hanami 2 as a moving target, meaning that we know that 2.0 was the core, 2.1 views and assets, and 2.2 persistence, and that's it, right? But the migration, and so that is why it's a moving target, because to do upgrade, to provide upgrade experience, upgrade guidance, upgrade guide documentation, you will need a stable target, meaning that once you know exactly the API that we will release in terms of software design, then you have the target, and then you have 1.3 that is the starting point, and 2.2 which is the end point of the journey, the upgrade journey, and then with all the details that are precisely set in stone, you can do the migration path. This is why we haven't focused yet, explicitly focused yet on the migration path, because we are still moving with the evolution of Hanami 2.x series, and that is my personal take on it. Regarding the real world experience, I know, Seb, your company is working on the migration, even though it's painful. Sorry about that. But we would like to leverage that experience, and I know other companies that are working with Hanami, but they are on 1.3 still, so I can't provide you a list of people that are embarking in the same upgrade journey. But it will happen in the future. Meaning that I don't have concrete answers for you today. Sorry, but better to be honest, I believe, because that was not yet in our roadmap, the upgrade path.
Having in mind that there are like 8 billion of people in the world, it's super awesome feeling to be the first one in something. So yeah, I don't mind. I will continue with the upgrade and forcing the track.
And I have to say,
appreciate your
I was about to say the same thing. We are hugely appreciative of what you and this team at Ascender are doing, and we're looking forward to like taking what you learn and incorporating it into first-party upgrade guide. It's going to be a huge boost for everybody.
Cool, thanks. There's one more question related just to the contribution. So there are some open issues on GitHub related to Hanami point 1. Like it seems like at least the Gustavo, this is the question. I didn't verify that, but he said that a lot of issues on the GitHub are related to Hanami 1, and if people want to contribute, want to help you, taking the responsibility of finding out how to solve, this context and get to know with the components, where they should find the actual tasks, the actual issues with the Hanami 2. Could you say something about this, Tim?
Yeah, we have a Trello board that we've been using just informally because, especially for this phase of the work, a lot of the work has been sort of discovery in nature and exploratory. For instance, Luca was breaking a lot of brand new ground as we were figuring out how to incorporate a front-end asset system to fit into Hanami. So we couldn't specify it in, single GitHub ticket-sized units. But we do have a Trello board that we use, or that I use at least, to sort of note down things that I feel need to be done as part of a release. And in preparation for this chat, I just linked to it from a pinned ticket on the Hanami GitHub issues. So if people want to go see it, it's a public Trello board. You can go check it out. And then I think if there's something in there that someone wants to do, you can reach out to us in the forum or something like that, and just make yourself known, and we can work with you.
So let's jump into the next section. We actually finished up with the Hanami related questions or Hanami focused questions. And now I will jump to the dry oriented one. There are just a few more questions to be asked for you. I have a question from Drowsy. How would you compare the dry ecosystem that compares itself to Trailblazer? And also in general, what would be your recommendation for the business layer in Hanami applications? And I refer here to the Hanami Interactor gem that we had in the Hanami 1. And there is nothing like this in Hanami 2. So even if there will be no official gem for the Hanami 2 to support business layer, the interactor pattern, the dry transaction, what would be your recommendation? Maybe even not official one, just personal one, for people to implement the business logic, especially advanced business logic in Hanami applications in the near future.
Okay, let me start with the Drive versus Trailblazer. I would say T for simplicity. So I believe that both are great ecosystem, and I can think on top of my mind about 3 main differences. The first one is about a philosophy. I mean, rom-rb is a set of small libraries, whereas Trailblazer is a high-level architecture framework that sits on top of Hanami, that sits on top of Rails. So the level of abstraction here is different. The second one is about a learning curve. That means with the dry-rb, you can cherry pick gems, single purpose gems, and you can learn just validation, just CLI, just whatever you need in your Ruby app. Whereas with the Trailblazer, you have to learn a framework on top of the existing frameworks that you use as base. Again, you can use on top of Hanami, you can use on top of Rails, so you need to learn either one of those plus Trailblazer. So I imagine the learning curve to be more, not steep, but bigger than just picking one of those dry-rb libraries. And the third one is about the flexibility. Again, because you can have single-purpose gems with dry-rb, you can have your own architecture, and then dry-rb are utilities that you use to enhance the possibilities of your code base, whereas Trailblazer is more prescriptive of how you need to structure your business logic. So again, it's philosophy, learning curve, and flexibility. The differences between the two ecosystems.
I also talked with Nick Satterer, the author of Trailblazer, about it in the past, and his addition to what you said was those are not competitors. Like dry-rb are not competing with Trailblazer on the same users and the same use cases. And that was the eye-opening for me. He also mentioned that some of the Trailblazer libraries actually use dry libraries under the hood. And that was an example of what you just said, that dry-rbs are just utilities that you can use to produce any kind of libraries. And Trailblazer addresses, according to Nick, Trailblazer addresses the business layer itself. It's not related to any kind of like a Hanami framework or anything particular, the web or anything like that. And dry libraries just can be used in both layers, like in any Ruby application. And that is something I learned from Nick.
Now, yeah, to jump from there to what our vision might be for helping people model their business logic in Hanami, this is something that I think we want to include in the full stack Hanami app Hanami version that we talked about for our endpoint for this 2 series. And honestly, I expect this might come more from the dry-rb layer, because that layer of gems already provides a lot of valuable tools for modeling your business logic. When you combine the depth mixin that you get with Hanami, which itself is implemented as using a dry-rb gem, along with gems like dry monads for structuring your success or failure return values and letting them be composable in interesting ways, dry validation for checking your business logic's input, dry struct for sort of modeling the things you pass through your business layer in a type-safe way. This is already a really incredible combination for modeling, decomposing, reusing all your units of business logic. With Hanami 2, I think we'll want to maybe provide a few of those things so they're ready for you to use out of the box as an opinionated first step, but of course do so in a way that lets you remove them if you'd rather not use them. The one thing that I do think we could explore is providing a successor or a next evolution for something like dry transaction, which is a gem that I wrote quite a long time ago now to help people dip their toes into monadic composition of business logic and business transactions. And that's kind of what space Hanami Interactor played in as well. I think we want to, as a team, get behind one solution there. I personally think dry-rb is the right layer for that, because this is something that can be useful for all frameworks. and we can just provide an easy to use, ready to go integration for new Hanami apps from there. But in the meantime, if anyone's interested in thinking or exploring this space, if you haven't looked at it yet, go check out dry monads. Don't be scared by that term. Go check out the do notation page, because this right now is my happy place in terms of how you can put together your business layer. It's just a really expressive, simple Ruby approach for combining multiple steps of a sequence of business flows in a safe way, such that any failure along the path immediately short circuits the rest of the activities and returns back to the caller. And using success and failure objects as a consistent way for wrapping up the results of your business operations is a powerful approach. It helps you consider failure as a first-class concern. It helps you tie together things in a safe way. And so I think we have all the ingredients already there, and people can go to work really productively with those tools that already exist. With Hanami 2, we'll probably just try and find a way to just tie a bow on top, just to make it just a little bit nicer and a little bit smoother and so on. But I don't think we have much to do.
I want to mention that Dry Monads was one of the key libraries that drove me to Hanami. I have at least 2 videos published about it. And one of the most popular videos I have ever released is how to leverage this business logic using Dry Monads inside of the RISE applications. So yeah, there are plenty of possibilities, and thanks for providing this. This is amazing. So I have one more question from the Christina about the learning resources books recommendations, because Hanami and rom-rb takes a very different approach of the majority of the Ruby community, at least from what they got used to for all the years that RISE is in place and it's popular. So the question is, if you have any recommendations of good resources for Rubyist to build understanding of this more functional approach to Ruby. And Luca, would you like to start?
I would start with a simple and easy one, Hanami Mastery. And thanks, Seb, for that. I mean, what else? What else? I believe that there are a couple of talks that Piotr, or aka Peter, Tim and I gave in different times, where we try to explain this blending of OO versus FP, not very versus, but blending together in a way that it feels natural, because we believe that Ruby is a multi-paradigm language, and when you look from another perspective, the things that we are asking in reality comes very natural to Ruby. If you think about the concept of callable objects, single purpose objects, it's a very OO concept that expose a method that is named call, and that with the polymorphism and duck typing of Ruby, you can interchange those callable objects with procs, and in a way that it feels very natural. You can combine functions together, chain functions together. That is very inspirational when you look at these basic building blocks and you start to get a sense of them. You understand that Ruby is the perfect language to blend those two paradigms.
Thanks. Tim, any thoughts?
I also have done some talks, like Luca said. I have an easy list of them. If you go to timriley.info/speaking, you'll see them from all over the years. They're all variations on the same theme, because what I've learned is it takes many years of repetition to help land an idea in a large community. But one of them might resonate with you. Something else that I think is important to go on, it's important to realize is that this is actually a journey, and there'll be, you need to try and put yourself into a place of discomfort in order to learn new things. So I think it means trying some of these tools and actually thinking, well, how might I use these in my day-to-day? Now, you might not go and add it to your production code base at work, but you might try and implement a similar thing, you know, in a toy app or something like that, and see how they look and see how these things tie together. What does it mean to model your business logic using dry monads, dry validation, and a few other things? Certainly, in my journey to eventually finding myself on the rom-rb and the Hanami teams, it came from watching a talk from Peter and seeing him talk about that functional OO blend and thinking, wow, that's the way I want to build Ruby. And then I just started stalking him on GitHub and like tried some of his gems and tried to build an app using a collection of them. And the first app that I tried this with, I tell you, it was pretty crappy. And I felt pretty uncomfortable. It's like, wow, this feels different. I don't know how to do this next thing. But you just try it and you try it again and you try it again. And suddenly, at some point, something unlocks in your brain and, you know, some neurons connect, and you realize, this is why it can be done this way. And here's a benefit that you get from this kind of structure. And this tool works best if I yield it in this particular spot. And then things start to feel a bit more natural and so on. So I think, yes, it's true that this is a style of Ruby development that's not well represented by a lot of information out there. Aside from Hanami Mastery and our collection of conference talks and a few blog posts on my blogs on my website, there's probably not all that much else. But I think the right thing to do is just to try it and then to ask questions. What we have now that I didn't have when I started are the Hanami and rom-rb forums, and they are a great place to go and, you know, talk about the things that worked well for you, that didn't work well for you. And there are enough people there that you'll get some responses. You'll find some like-minded people to bounce ideas off in the future. So I think that's what I would recommend.
And also, what I have found the worst or the most challenging in terms of regular content creation is regularly coming up with the ideas that are needed by the community, that people need to watch and learn. And if any of you like ever have any idea, any concern, question that I could address, I could also prepare and explain using my experience and release a Hanami Mastery article or a video helping to understand and build the awareness of the functional approach to Ruby in the long term. So, yep, thank you very much, guys. And I will share just a side note about Peter. When I was junior back then, like 10 years ago, Peter visited Wrocław on the a local conference. And his talk about ROM was one of the first I ever heard, and I understand nothing. But the seed he seeded in my heart and in my brain actually grew up over time. And when I was working in Rise over the next years, I always felt something was wrong with the approach people and companies have when commonly build applications in Rise. And the result is here, that I'm here and I'm doing what I'm doing. So yeah, sometimes it's just you don't expect what will result with which of your action will actually result in something unexpected. We are heading into the end of this interview, and there is one question left from me actually that I want to challenge you to figure out, to give and build better credibility for Hanami as a core, as a development, and as a stable long-term project. What could we do, or what could you do to increase the credibility for companies? So they will start using Hanami 2 in scale. They will maybe start support more the development of Hanami and related libraries. And yeah, what are your thoughts about that?
Again, this is for us. It's a phase after the code completion, but the first thing that we are already working on it is documentation, because that is crucial for anybody to even try it. And from there, I believe the key elements here are showcase of success stories for the brave companies like yours, Seb, Ascenda, to showcase that they can build a business on top of it, and that can start a good cycle of reinforcement of people that are first, people that are brave enough to try it, will set an example, and for others to follow, showing that it's possible to use Hanami successfully. And from the other element is to about educational resources, again thanks to you and Hanami Mastery, because that can solve the problem on about a developer in a day-to-day job saying, how do I do this with a Hanami, where this is the problem at hand. Then those kind of resources of contents comes handy to unblock people and to unblock in terms of productivity, alongside with documentation of the framework. And from there, if you look at the professional side and companies and individual, what we are looking is to build, and if you put those two elements together, is to build a strong community where there is our hope that companies, agencies will start to provide training and professional support. And so that is always a cycle that positively reinforces itself.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the answers and all the time. That's all I have prepared for today. So if you also you don't have anything else to add, we can jump into the last part, and this is the thank you block. I have prepared a little special blog for you guys because I feel like in the internet and in the world in general, there's like too little appreciation and gratefulness. So I wanted to provide some chance for you to practice. And maybe there is a person or multiple that you are explicitly grateful for the fact that you are where you are at the moment in your career, in your life. And yeah, would you like to share some public thank you to someone?
Sure. I'll keep this a Hanami themed thank you. I think I have two groups to acknowledge here. The first is my family. I have a wife and two children, 9 and 7 this year as their ages. And honestly, they've supported me across many years in sacrificing time away from them to contribute to this weird internet software thing that is a foreign concept to them all. And without their support, I wouldn't be here doing this. So they deserve a big thank you. And secondly, I'll thank the other fellow in this interview. It's Luca. Luca is the primary author of a framework called Hanami that existed way before I sort of came in with all my own ideas about stuff. And what I've really appreciated about our collaboration is the give and the take of it all, and the meeting of the minds, and learning, like on both our sides, learning what inspires each other about software and fusing that into what I think is something that is greater than the sum of its parts. So I want to thank Luca for welcoming others into his vision, and for, in particular, listening to my ideas and helping us find places for those in the framework we're delivering. It's been a really enjoyable collaboration, and I'm looking forward to doing it long into the future.
I have to, not because of what you just said, but because if Hanami, it's true, I started it, and I believe that Hanami 1 is my creature. I believe that Hanami 2 is, all the credit goes to team, because he made all the team accountable. He poured into the vision, evolved what Hanami was in the past, and actually coding, embarking into this journey of rebuilding the core of it. And so that is an immense thank you from my side. For other people, let's not forget about Mats, that invented the language, where that literally changed my life. And one credit goes to my best friend. His name is Davide, and he suggested, he knew about my interest to Ruby more than it was 2005, and he sent to me a link to a job opening here in Italy, and that was the first one, and that gave me the ability to start very early in the community, working professionally with the Ruby. That is a lot of time ago. Those are the coincidence that, sliding doors moments where they change your life. And so that's my list. And again, Seb, thank you for having us. Thank you for spreading the Hanami word.
Okay, thanks again for inviting. It was amazing to talk to you. It was a blast, and thanks for all of your work, because without your dedication and sacrifices, I would have nothing to write about. So yeah, pretty much appreciated, and I hope we have a chance to repeat that on the 100th episode or something like that, when Hanami will have the 5.0 version. So see you then.